everyone. How are you doing today? Today is Tuesday, October 18th. It is 10:01. Great Kitsap County, 53 degrees. And we've got a new show here for you today, the digital newsletter. And today we have our KCR Executive Director, Tony Ives. We've had him on the show before, but he's got a lot to share with us. And so we're excited that he can carve a little bit of his busy time to share all the great things that KCR is doing and things that are upcoming. So why don't we go ahead and give him an applause?
Marwan, you're
How
so
you doing
silly.
today?
You're so silly, Marwan.
You deserve it. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm blessed. Thank you so much.
Excellent, excellent. So of course, you do a lot of things, and there's a lot
Hey,
of good
Marwan,
change.
before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my friend, your friend too, Jill Stanton. She's been out of action, out of commission, and just want to wish her well. Okay.
All right. We hit the horn for Jill. That's how we do here on the Conduit. So hopefully she'll be back soon, and we'll rejoin the teams. And yeah, we do miss her, and she is definitely value added to people individually and to the community at large for sure. Just a great change. If you look at the county maybe 2 years ago now, with all the new leadership, um, things have just kind of taken off exponentially. And
So it's funny you say that. I put together a short list of over the last 2 years of like new executive directors. It's like 11 or 12 of us, and trying to get us all together. And there are a couple of folks that just got here, right? Like Jason over at Kayak, and he doesn't know anybody, right? So
Yeah.
just trying to put us all in the same room and talk about things and get to know each other.
I like it. Well, see, that's that leadership, right? Bringing folks together and seeing the voids and making opportunity, especially sometimes coming in from someone from the outside, it's helpful because folks that are already here, they're too far in the forest to see the trees, right? And it's like, hey, this is a void. We need to, get together and have conversations and build relationship and community. So that is awesome. Well, let's jump in because you've got a huge lineup of information for everyone. So what's first?
Oh, thanks for having me again, Marwan. I always like being here, and I'm going to try to make an effort to come more. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate the audience as well. So I wanted to update the community on our community needs assessment. So the last time I came on, I spoke about it. I think that was sometime in September. It seems like a long time ago, Marwan. And I'm going to discuss the needs assessment and go through some of the demographics that we have because the data is pretty interesting. So really, KCR, Kitsap Community Resources, as a charter for community action agencies, we're supposed to conduct a community needs assessment every 3 years or so. And this is the most robust survey we have done because we have taken it from a grassroots level, working with PTAs and parents out of school districts and service providers all across Kitsap County, and just brought this whole coalition of folks to not only develop the questions, but also conduct the surveys and analyze the data, and in the end, do focus groups. So I'm going to kind of discuss that today. The goals of this project was really for the community to have a stake in the resources that we receive here. Number one. Number two, we really, me as a new executive director, it's all about partnerships and collaboration. KCR can't do it alone, nor should we. So it's creating and maintaining partnerships, right? And that includes community members, the Black Student Union, like all our partners that we have, Kayak, the local churches, and the service providers, right? That's a big deal for us. We're also trying to identify agency gaps and set goals, increase our capacity to achieve results. For us, I mean, we're going to use this survey to basically conduct our strategic plan, and analyze the data, figure out where the greatest needs are, discuss our objectives over the next 3 to 5 years, and then implement a strategic plan with the help of the board. And I know some of the other agencies around Kitsap County plan to do the same thing with the data. So that's a big deal for us. And ultimately, the idea is to strengthen community support systems, right?
Absolutely. And I wanted to remind everyone that the community needs assessment was opened back up or extended. And so you still have time if you have not completed the community needs assessment. You have until October 23rd. The website is kcr.org/CNA. Takes you about 20 minutes. Just want to remind everyone one, you can take it in English, Spanish, Kurdish, or Tagalog. And you want to give yourself about 25 minutes because there's no way to save and then go back into it. So that's a big note on that. So give yourself about 25 minutes to fill it out. But again, you've got these major organizations here that are going to, take us into the new direction based on the community feedback. So please take some time out and share this information out. Thank you.
So it's funny, all of that you said, with the help of KPHD, they analyze the data and they can see how long it takes for a survey to be completed. More or less, it's about 12 minutes. And depending
12
on the
minutes.
language, yeah, Marwan. So
Wow.
if it's in Spanish, it takes longer. And that is really interesting data. It takes 22 minutes in Spanish, I believe, and X number of minutes in another language. So yeah, it's not really 25 minutes. But some of the questions maybe you want to think about. But on average, it's taken about 12 minutes for the English-speaking respondents of the survey. So it's kind of interesting.
Oh, nice. That is awesome information to know.
So, just to mention some of our partners, this really started with an idea from the United Way. And they called us and said, hey, you guys need to do a needs assessment. We need to do a needs assessment, and some other folks around here need to do one. Why don't we try to conduct it like the census? So I said, oh, that's a great idea. Do outreach, which is very important. Find trusted messengers and trusted partners within the community, and work closely with the community in developing the questions. And that's what we tried to do from the very beginning. So our partners include, the United Way, Kitsap Public Health, Bremerton Housing Authority, of course, which is Jill is the ED, right? And Kitsap Regional Library, there's a new ED there, Jason Driver, it's very cool. Fish Line, it's one of our big partners. Unfortunately, Lori Maxim is retiring at the end of the year, and it's unfortunate. Molina Healthcare, they partnered with us because they give out phones to Kitsap County residents, and they promote the survey at the same time, right? So there's
Really?
a very specific demographic. So they came to us, approached us about it. I ran into them at our KCR office in Port Orchard. I don't know if anybody knows we have an office in Port Orchard right off of Jackson and Lund. Okay, everybody out there should know about it. So welcome any visitors over there. But yeah, that's where I ran into Molina Healthcare. Of course, Kitsap County, they really pushed it. Appreciate Charlotte Garrido, the commissioner, and getting that done, and Paul Andrews as well, the auditor, just shot it out to all of the staff. In fact, my sister called me a couple of weeks ago, right when the survey was going to close on September 30, and she called me. I was in California at the time. She said, hey, I just got this thing from my boss. She works for Kitsap County to do the survey. And I just did the survey. Even though she doesn't live in Kitsap County, she works in Kitsap County and lives in Pierce County, right? So I thought that was cool. That was very interesting. So speaking of that, before I forget, the survey was going to close September 30, but on that day, Olympic College called us and said, hey, can you extend the survey? We want to push it out to our entire student body, which we extended it, and they did, and it's been fruitful. So that's cool. But going back to our partners, I'm just going to finish this up because they include Coffee Oasis, St. Vincent de Paul, Kitsap Community Foundation, and the Bainbridge Island Foundation are big supporters of this. Kitsap Strong, of course, and the Port Gamel Sklallam tribe. They're huge. I tried to reach out to them today, but Roxanne didn't call me back. So Roxanne, if you're listening, and also the school districts. Of course, there were a bunch of other folks involved in this, but those are like our main partners. Okay. So
Nice. Now, Tony, let me ask you really quick. Now, with Molina, are our phones still available for folks
So
under
look,
that?
yeah, man, how do I get that information to you? So I know Molina was in our 1201 Park Street or 1201 office just last week, I believe. And they run this program where they give out phones. You know, you have to meet certain requirements, but it's pretty easy. And there are our customers. Um, and and yeah, it's still going on. Marwan, if I would have thought of this, I would have gotten that information out so we could share it. But I will share that as soon as I get it, as soon as I get off this call, and
Oh, thank
and
you.
and share it out to the community, okay? Because I think they're doing it to the end of the year. When I ran
Wow.
into Melina at KCR in Port Orchard, I'm a board member for another food bank over in the Key, and so we were doing a big log cutting show, like lumberjack show, out at the airport, Port Orchard Airport. So they were like, "Hey, can we come to this? Can we promote this? We're going to give out phones, and we'll promote the survey." And so that was the first time I saw, Kitsap County residents receiving phones and then talking about the survey. So it's a really great service that they do. So.
Well, and
And
that's why it's so important to talk about things over and over again, because you don't know who has heard the message and has got the information. So as much interaction as I have with KCR, I didn't know that until now. So that's huge. And so now the audience knows. And
Yes,
yeah, as soon as
because
you
you
give me
just
that
said
information.
Molina, and I talked about him, so I'm glad we're having a conversation.
Yes, I will get that out there for sure. Thank
Okay,
you. And I know a few people now that could use some cell
I'm,
phones.
I'm
So
I'm writing it down, and in fact, we should be pumping that out on our webpage, on our social media. Hey, Molina's at our office or at this office. Come and get a phone and take the survey, and know what KCR does. We should be promoting that. So that's a great idea. I'm writing
I
that down.
love it. Love it.
Okay. So, Marwana, I wanted to really talk about something that's very interesting to me, and that's data.
Sure.
Can I share the screen? Can
You
you?
surely can.
Let's see how that works.
So you
Do
should
you have
have an
video?
icon down there.
Share screen.
Yep.
Shares. There we go. And I'm going to share this one. Can you see that?
Right. I can, and now the audience can too.
Great. So up at the top, you can see the number of respondents, 4,214. So this is curious because about a week ago, we had over 40, it went over 45. We were pretty happy about it. But thanks to KPHD, Kitsap Public Health District, they scrubbed the data and they noticed an unusual response, and it looked like it was coming from a bot in one specific area. And so they were able to eliminate those responses, kept one, the primary one, and not the repetitive one, to clean up the data. So in Spanish,
Nice.
there's been 12, Tagalog, there's been 2, and in Kurdish, there's been 2. But this is part of the most interesting part of the data. So we were trying to ascertain where people work and where people live as part of our demographics. This particular chart doesn't show that, but if you can see, like 98110, basically 450 people responded in Bainbridge, in and around Bainbridge Island. So that's 11% of the total population, of total survey results, I should say. So on the right here is the census data. Okay, so in this case, we're 2% over the census average, which is great for that zip code. And in Bremerton, these 4 zip codes here, so we have 1,026 respondents. So that's 25% of this survey represents Bremerton residents. Okay, And on the census data, these four zip codes represent 18%. The same is true in Central Kitsap. You can see that. Central Kitsap is a little light, 693, 17% versus 27%. We're spending more time out in Paulsbo, working really closely with Fishline and with other organizations out there to try to increase that before it closes. And there's North Kitsap, okay? And here are the zip codes here. We have a pretty big response. 1,010 respondents represents 25% of the total respondents. And that's 19% of the census population, the average, okay? And finally, in South Kitsap, which in August, South Kitsap was very, very low. And we made a pretty big push with Helpline, one of the food banks over there, and our own office, and a couple of churches, even my church over there, and started promoting the survey and with a couple of other clubs, and it's really worked out. That right down to grocery outlet. In fact, I think I mentioned this before. All of the grocery outlets, the one in Port Orchard, the one in Bremerton, and the one in Silverdale, all were handing out the surveys to their customers. So that was really great, and I appreciate them, I have to say. Okay.
So Tony, tell me, what does this mean to you for many of us that may not understand data, to see that, you know, the census in many instances you've beat those numbers? What does that mean?
So that's a really good question. I'm kind of a census geek and a data geek, and when you compare your results to average census data, so the census data basically said, well, let's say I'm African. Well, we don't have to, let's say I'm African American. I'm African American. And maybe African Americans, the Black community, we represent X. I think it's 4.5% of Kitsap County. Okay. And if we're over that, that's great. If we're under that, okay, that's fine. And we can understand that. How we were trying to do this right now is every week or so, we run the data, we see where we're light. And so we go out and target those communities as much as we can. Now that we have a new social media expert, his name is Arbor. He's been specifically pushing out the CNA, the Community Needs Assessment, to various zip codes, just to make sure that everybody knows about it. So that's been pretty helpful. So in that respect, that's what the data means. But if you bear with me, let's look at the second chart. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And while you're pulling that up, what I think is awesome about that is you have real time, you know, strategy to target places that need to be hit versus having to wait 3 years from now to get it right, you know, in 3 years. So you're like, oh man, okay, it's low here. We can hit this right now. That's fantastic, which I would assume would bear fruit and see why your numbers are increasing week after week.
So that is a good point, because that was the point. That was one of the points of this survey. In the past, you know, surveys haven't been pretty robust, and even some of the largest service providers here have only managed to get 1,300 respondents in a very tight community, not across demographics. And so with our collaborations and our partnerships with trusted messages like Kendra, Kai Kendra, you know, we're able to spread the word and get people involved, and doing the survey. So I want to just go back to what you asked me before, because this is pretty interesting. This is the data split up by race. So in this case, African Americans represent 123 respondents, which is 3% of the total sample size meaning the total survey, right? And that's the census population, 3%. So we're dead on. I really like to increase that number. The Asian population, 209, so 5%. So there's 6% of the population, so we're close. Hispanic population, 218 respondents, which has been great, 5% versus 8%. We're working tightly with Kayak to do that. Annika Turner over there, she she's patiently assisting us and walking through the survey with her clients, and it's been very, very helpful. The Native American Pacific Islander community, man, they're kicking butt. 197, which is 5%, no, although they only represent 1% of the population. So a shout out to Bailey and Monk and the work that they do, and we appreciate it. Okay, and Middle Eastern. I want to talk about this. And this is the idea of working with the community. So back in April, KCR helped sponsor Eid, the end of Ramadan, right? It was the beginning of May,
Hmm.
May 1st or May 2nd. And so Hamid reached out to us. And so that was at the Marvin Williams Center, right across the parking lot. So we sponsored the event. It was a huge turnout, largest turnout ever for the end of Eid in Kitsap County, largest turnout ever. So
Oh,
he's
wow.
been instrumental in this, but this is the deal. When we first started doing the questions, um, there was no place for Middle Eastern. So the census, US Census data doesn't cover that. If you're Middle Eastern, you're white. And this is a very interesting conversation
Wow.
because I have a lot of Middle Eastern Palestinian friends, and we talk about this all the time. And so when Hamid called me and we were talking about this, and he's like, why can't we identify ourselves as Middle Eastern? And I went back to the folks that helped us do the survey, and there are a lot of academics, and they're like, well, this is how it's always been done. And I said, well, look, I just had an argument with someone, and his wife is yelling at him because she can't identify herself as Middle Eastern, right?
Hmm.
So I'm serious. This is a conversation. And I actually called one of my close friends, Rami Alafranji. He's Palestinian. Called him, and I said, what's up with this? And he was yelling at me too. The same thing. He says, see, this is what happens. We have to identify ourselves as somebody we're not. So we insisted when we formulated the survey to add that in. So you can see in this data, 77 respondents, which is 2% of the population, although the census data says you're included in white. I just had to point that out because that's the importance of having community involvement in this process and actually fighting against some systematic things that happen, right? So, and that sometimes you just have to the community has to make their voices heard. Okay.
Well, and it's so unfortunate, right? Because the answer always or usually is, well, it's how it's always been done. So that's not a good answer. We're doing it
Right.
a new way now.
That's
That's
right.
awesome.
And in fact, I worked through the census this last time, and there were so many frustrations, even how the Latin American population is split up because everybody's different. But we tend to lump people into the same category, whether they like it or not. But the result of that is we don't get better data on how to serve. So that's what we were trying to get to here in this community needs assessment. It's been a unique opportunity and a unique challenge, but now everybody is recognizing the value of what these last 5 months have are going to have for the community going forward. Okay,
That's awesome.
so the last part of this data is basically the income reporting. So just across less than 15,000, 286, 15 to 30,000, basically 260, 30 to 45. And these numbers are kind of consistent with census data, except, looking at this, they are skewed towards the middle. So if you think about a bell chart, that's how this thing looks, right? So it's very, very, very interesting. In the past, even with KCR, I know what the data looked like. It was homogeneous and heavily weighted to one zip code.
Hmm.
And now we can feel comfortable, or more comfortable, that we're moving in the right direction. So Marwan, one of the other goals of this is, okay, now we've created a model. So at the end of the day, we're going to all get together and see where we went wrong, what we can improve on, and to make it better. And then other partners here are just going to piggyback on the questions and the data so we can build on this. give you another story. Kitsap Strong was also part of this, and there are questions about resiliency. We went back and forth about this, and the last time Christina did this measurement of the data, it had to be 10 years ago, but it was important to include that so they can start measuring that, and hopefully going forward, they'll have more often samples and data so they can measure it more closely, because clearly these last 10 years, we've all had to be resilient in the last 2 years, especially, right? And those questions were about health and how are you feeling, and they're important. And even me, I kind of want more substantial, not touchy feely questions. But Christina, she won, so I said, okay, these are good questions. Hi, Christina. Apologize. So,
but that's important too, right? Those how you feel questions are important.
Yes, sir. They are.
I think that. Do you guys use the Hope survey also? I think Kitsap Strong is they believe in that survey pretty heavily.
Yeah, and you know, Kitsap Strong, they're having their resiliency summit at the end of the month. I wanted to give a shout out to those guys, and we're sponsoring a table, and some of our team, some of our staff are going to be in attendance, and that's going to be great. So that's over at the, no, it's not. No, that's another story. But yeah, it's going to be a great event. So okay, that's it. We don't have to share my screen anymore. How do I stop
I'll
sharing
take that off
screen?
there. Yeah.
Okay. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So let me just talk a little bit about the data. What you didn't see was all of the data. So there's basically this huge database now that's got a bunch of things, and we'll be able to dissect and discern what's going on. For example, what I mentioned earlier about, excuse me, Marwan, about the zip code where you live and where you work. So the importance of that, I was at an event last Friday, and there was a councilman member from Bainbridge Island, and he was doing his presentation, and he was talking about the problem with his staff in the city can't afford to live in Bainbridge Island. So they commute into Bainbridge Island. So what his concern was is what would happen if there's an earthquake? Or what would happen if the bridge went down? What would happen, right? I mean, there's only two ways in, the ferry and the bridge, right? And so they were trying to identify the demographic, how many people live and work, live in Bainbridge Island, but work outside, or the opposite, right? And so I told him after his presentation that it was curious that Jim Hopper from Bainbridge Island Community Foundation, this question was a result of him, because he wanted that data from the city council. The city council didn't know that, and now they do, because we put that question in there. And that's across Kitsap County. Where do you live and where do you work? So we wanted to see, in fact, you know, some folks live in one zip code but work in multiple zip codes, and that's hard to ascertain too, but at least we have a starting point. So anyway, all of this is a result of partnerships and collaboration, Marwan. You know how important they are, right?
They are.
And
so let me ask.
Yes,
I
sir.
know that there was a panel already on some of the data that's come out. Can you give us a sneak peek as to what, you know, one thing the community is asking for, or what's important to the community?
Yeah, we had a focus group last Saturday, and it was interesting because it wasn't what I expected. So the thing that everybody talked about for quite a while was healthcare.
Really?
And the inability to get care, and the problems with finding a doctor or a dentist or a mental health therapist, or even an obstetrician, right? One person in the room, He talked about how his wife's obstetrician was retiring, and in December, right in the middle of when they're supposed to be expecting, and it's a problem because it's hard to find one here in Kitsap County. So the curious thing about that was, again, this was Saturday morning when we were having that discussion. The day prior, I was at a conference and just listening to the mayor. The mayor brought this up, the hospital and the crisis that we're in right now, and how the Kitsap County and the city of Bremerton are trying to work out a long-term plan, analyze it, and trying to solve this problem. So here we have these people in this focus group talking about this, and it couldn't have been more timely, honestly. Um, that was very interesting. Um, and our job was to listen, and we had a facilitator there who did a really great job of just guiding the conversations and making sure everybody was heard and listen. So to that end, even some of the things at KCR we do wrong, and so I sat there and listened to it, because that's the whole idea of this. If you're afraid to hear it, you're not going to ask about it, and you're never going to improve, right?
Right.
So
Right.
again, we're trying to identify gaps in service, and that includes us, and that includes Kids at Public Health, and includes Kayak and all the other service providers. What can we do better, and what are we not? What are we doing okay or great? And but what can we do better? Because that's what we're striving to do. So
Just as an idea, listening to you speak, could one of the solutions be, hey, Olympic College and the high schools and KCR and the medical departments all working together to say, hey, we might not be able to fix this immediately, but we can be more intentional on training, tomorrow's nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals so that we don't have those deficits, 5 years out or so.
yeah, yeah. So tonight we're doing one in Spanish, Marwan. It's going to be cool. The last time I did a Spanish focus group was over at KCR, and we had like 10 different families there,
Oh,
and
nice.
we supplied food, and they had brought their kids. It was really great because with one of our staff, Stephanie, she helped put it together, and Annika, which was the first time I met Annika Turner. Frankly, she came
Oh,
to watch and to participate, and it was completely in Spanish. I speak Spanish. There was no translator, and so it just opened up the conversation where everybody could talk freely and honestly and openly. Took about an hour to build up trust, which is this confianza is called in Spanish, right? So people could feel comfortable talking about things. So tonight, I hope it's the same way. I'm not sure. Over the weekend, someone reached out to me, and I think Kayak told them to call me, and asked me about the focus group, and I talked to him. It's all in Spanish, and I said, "Come, we'll have food. We'll have a $25 gift card for
oh,
anybody who
nice.
wants to participate in any of our focus groups." Okay, and in fact, Marwan, I should have been thinking, because I could have put out a schedule of the focus groups, but it'll be on our website, and you'll be able to go on and see the focus groups. Actually, it's already there with our dates, and we'll be updating it periodically. So if anybody wants to participate, everybody will receive a $25 gift card. We keep these focus groups very tight, an hour and a half. We're there to listen, and we have a facilitator. We're to do one in Spanish or a couple, one in Mam, which is a Guatemalan dialect, and many in English, and it's across demographics. One at Olympic College with the students, which is great. Trying to put together one with the Black Student Union. Hopefully, Jewel's going to help me out with that. I talked to her today, and the
Nice.
YWCA. We're going to do one over there. So we're just trying to spread it out and get as much anecdotal data and stories as we can, because it reflects differently from quantitative data, from numbers. When you can actually hear
Mhm.
someone speaking, when they're telling you about their housing crisis or the problems that they have with healthcare, and you hear the stories, I mean, it definitely hits home. but it's something we will be able to capture, hopefully. And we record these. We're going to go back and analyze the data. Everything's confidential, also, by the way. So we're open to anyone who would like to participate. All right.
Now, Tony, can you guide me to the schedule on the website so I can share that with folks?
Let's see.
And I can pull it up here. I'm at the community needs assessment.
Maybe it's I'm pretty sure it's on our website, but it's definitely on our Facebook.
What's on your Facebook page? Okay.
1 second. I walk away and say, "Hey, can I be right back? I'll ask my guy."
Oh, you could. I can filibuster with the best of them.
So, yeah, filibuster. Give me 1 second, okay? Right? Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay.
While Tony is looking that information up, again, let me go ahead and pull this information so that you can see the KCR website here. You can view their annual impact report there. So if you want to see what's going on and kind of read that for yourself, Tony was sharing that there's a new social media guru who is on staff now. So if you notice, there is now a scrolling banner here at the beginning. You've heard Matt talk about the Manette housing project that's going on. So you can see that information there. We'll save the Christmas Angel program for the end of the show, but every year KCR does their Christmas Angel program. And so, you've got your scrolling banner here, which is just chock full of really good information there. Always remember, Matt always is saying, hey, there's job opportunities at KCR, and they are really focused on lived experience more than anything else. So this is a great opportunity for you to get in a career opportunity, either change and do something that's really impactful. They have great benefit packages, medical, vision, dental, life insurance, short-term, long-term disability, wellness. And you can see all the openings here. So you can see, oops, sorry about that. Let me put that back on the screen there. You can see early Head Start, home visitor, Head Start, childcare. Lots of different things up here. So you can look at their career opportunities. Let me go back here to the home page. And again, like I said, you see their scrolling banner. And it will just scroll on its own, but you can click through. And anything that you want to take a look at here, like the Manette Housing Project, as I said before, you can get all that information. It will increase KCR's inventory from 36 to 45 units. And as Matt was saying, yeah, it's 9 units, but that, those units cost a lot of money. So
just speaking of that, we recently submitted hopefully the last of the funding that we needed to the Housing Trust Fund, and we had support across Kitsap County with our representatives, Derek Kilmer, the mayor, Wheeler wrote us a letter. The Kitsap County commissioners wrote us a letter. It was really, really helpful, and we really appreciated that the support. So we'll see what happens. We're still looking for money to complete the project, but everybody recognizes now how much is needed. Housing is definitely needed here in Kitsap County. So Marwan, I sent you the link here. Of course, it's Facebook, so you have to be in your Facebook account, and that will give the focus groups events that are coming up, and they're going to be more as we schedule them. And again, we provide food and $25 gift card and hour and a half. That's what we ask of your time. All
right. So for those of you that have a Facebook account, this is where you can also get information. Sometimes things are put in different places to encourage people to get it, no matter how they consume information. So that's there for you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that.
So remember that the survey closes on the 23rd, but in the meantime, we'll probably be doing focus groups through November, trying to get them done by the holidays because we understand everybody's busy. But they're really helpful. Then we'll start analyzing the data December, the end of December, January. And the one thing, important thing I want to say, this isn't our data. It's not our project. The data is going to be available for the entire community and any service provider that wants to use it. KPHD is going to be making a data dashboard for us so you can see it and dissect it in a lot of different ways. I'm really excited to see it. And we speak with them all the time. My project manager, Chelsea, is on top of it. So it's going to be an interesting thing. And hopefully it lives on as a legacy for the community, for Kitsap County, and how we capture information in the future.
Yeah, and I was just saying, in regards to Kitsap Public Health, their data dashboard for COVID is really easy to read, and we looked at that quite a bit um, when the lockdowns were happening and everything else. So, very, very digestible. And I take it Tony will probably come on and talk to us a little bit about what the data says to KCR, and some others will probably do the same and say, this is what we see, and this is what direction we believe we're going to go into based on what we're seeing in the data. So, that's awesome.
100%. We're going to try to be as transparent as possible and involve the community decision. The commitment I made was not just throw the data out there, but go out and present it. And it's going to take some time and energy on our part, but that's the commitment that we made. Really be embedded in the community more, really understand what the needs are, and go forward from there. So I'm excited. Hey, I do want to give a shout out to KPHD. Carrie, Siri, Jessica, Gidry. I mean, they're fantastic. Siri's going to be here tonight. She also speaks fluent Spanish. And Jessica and Carrie and some other staff were here on Saturday. I mean, on Saturday, we're all here on Saturday, right? But it's that important. And Carrie just looks at the data, scrubs it, cleans it, right? Knows what's going on. And I have so much respect for that team. And I've been learning a lot myself. Okay. So they're fantastic. Yeah.
You know what I love to hear about when you're giving us this information, that it's the many that's doing the work. It's not just, hey, this is all KCR, and as soon as we get it done, we'll share it out. It's like, oh no, KPHD is doing this, and Kayak is doing that, and KRL is helping over here, and Olympic College says, hey, keep it open so we can have more access. It's everyone together making this thing happen. So that's really great.
So I mean, literally today, I picked up the phone and called Martin over at OC, and I said, look, get us a focus group over there. We need to be in front of the students, right? And the same with Jewel. I called her today. She's like, I said, focus group. I didn't realize they have an event going on tonight. Unfortunately, I can't be there. I was like, that would have been the perfect thing. And so we set up a date. It's either the 1st or 2nd of November that Jewel's going to put something together. I know Chelsea's talking to the YWCA, and hopefully next week there will be a focus group out there. Everybody's involved in this thing. I know Fishline. So we go out there. We were out there twice, and it turned into a focus group. We had gift cards, so people would fill out the survey, but people came by, and like 7 people came by and started talking about things, right down to the suggestions of how the questions should be worded, which I thought was very interesting. So we noted that for the next time around, right? So for a specific population, they said, you should word it this way. Great. Thank you very much. And that information does not go unnoticed. All right. So this is the importance of being hands-on.
Well, I guess we should thank the community, right? You have all the agencies, but if people don't do the survey, you don't have anything. And look at how many people have filled the survey out compared to the previous time the survey was released. So that is fantastic.
Yeah. I know how many respondents that we had in our last survey, and that was basically the end of 2019, 2020. And I'm so happy that we're so far past that right now. So and everybody else is too. So once we get to the end, there's going to be a lot more work to do, just the analysis part of it, and then writing the report and just figuring out what the data actually means. But we're hopeful and excited as well, and can't wait to share it out to the community. So I thank everybody. Thank everybody who've completed. If there's anybody on this podcast that hasn't done the survey, it doesn't take 25 minutes, Marwan. It takes 12 minutes, all right? And just go
12
in
minutes.
and go through it. And if you want to participate in the focus groups, again, we're giving out gift cards, and it's a really good opportunity to be heard. And we're here to listen. Okay.
All right. So I know that you have so many things on your list. So what else you got for us today?
Well, so I wanted to just talk about some projects that we have done and doing, and these are basically community projects. So we have the opportunity to receive funding from. Let me back up. So we get funding from, it's called Community Service Block Grant, CSBG. It flows through the Department of Commerce. Well, Governor Inslee decided to match that funding to all the community action agencies. So we're a community action agency, right? So that we do Head Start, weatherization, and employment and training, and housing, and services, community services, and WIC programs, all the things that everybody knows or don't know that we do. But that's all part of a community action agency. As far as Head Start goes, we're only one of 6 in Washington State as far as a community action agency that runs a Head Start program. And our particular staff and team are nationally recognized, which is pretty cool. Anyway,
Wow.
so we received, basically Governor Inslee matched the funding, $7.4 million. And that's allocated across Washington State to community action agencies. For ourselves, we received a portion of that money. And the spirit of that money was to hopefully develop or support small business development, sponsorships, unique programs in BIPOC communities and underserved communities. And that's the spirit of the legislation, and that's what we're trying to do. So I've kind of put the word out, but I'll just be officially to it here and say, we're looking for projects. We have until June 30 to spend it, but it's not about spending it. It's about finding sustainable enterprises that we could support. I'm going to tell you one that I've already committed, and I've been a part of this project since the very beginning, not the very beginning. So there's someone, I'll just say her name, Harriet Banks. She's super cool. She runs House of Hope, and it's going to be a foster care center for young pregnant mothers in the BIPOC community. She bought their house, her and her husband. And back in May, when I realized this, I said, don't stop spending your own money. Let's figure out how to do it, how to figure it out, right? And I sat with her to go through the permitting process. For me, it's a learning thing. It seems like the city, this is in Port Orchard. So the city of Port Orchard will rely on the state, whatever the permitting process. If the state says yes, the city will say yes, which I didn't get until working on this project, right? So we're in the final stretches of this thing. Hopefully by December or January, she will be able to house folks. So we're supporting the project, not just in the permitting process, but in basic things like ADA and access ADA and the driveway, things that have to be done in order for the permit to get approved, right? So it's been really great, but this is hopefully going to be something sustainable and valuable for the community. And that's just one example. Another thing we did, we put on a grant writing course. So we hired a grant writing consultant. It was all over Zoom. The commitment was once a week on a Wednesday for an hour, and with the idea of by the end of the 8-week course, you would have a grant ready to submit. So that was the idea. Okay.
Wow.
It started out with 10 representatives from 10 different organizations. It whittled down to 7, and 6 of them I know at least 2 that almost have grants ready to submit. And that's the deal. One of them is House of Hope. They have a grant. She's pretty unsure because she's never done this like that, but that's capacity building, right? And that's what we're trying to do. Matt can't write grants all day long for everybody else. We have our own grants to write. But if we could teach people how to do it, then we all we have to do is advise. And maybe if we hear funding opportunities, like Marwan, we were talking about that, right? Pick up the phone. Hey, there's a funding opportunity. Go apply for that grant. We were just talking about this, Marwan, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's the idea, is to do capacity building. So after the holidays, I'm going to do another one. I've asked my assistant Monica to like put it out in the newsletter, and Arbor's going to put it out on the Facebook page. Anybody that's interested, all we want is a commitment, right? Because we pay for it, and it's your time, and it's an hour. There's homework to do because you still have to do some things, right? It's not just going to be an hour, 8 hours, and at the end of the day, you're going to have a grant ready to write. You still have to do some work, but hopefully it's worth it, because maybe the first grant doesn't work out, but then maybe the second one does, right? The more you practice, the better you get at it. And to me, that's one of the best cost-effective projects that we can do, right? Marwan, I got to tell you a story.
Yeah,
So when
please.
I first got here, like in the spring, finally people were starting to know me, right? So they come into my
Mhm.
office, they say, "Hey, I got this idea, I got this grant, right? Can you help me write it?" And I was doing it, right? When I had my own work to do, and I said, "Wait a minute, this is ever going to be sustainable, right?" So that's when we came up with this idea, is to teach it, and hopefully it works. So anybody out there in the audience, you know, basically in December we're going to start making a list, and checking it twice, and all we ask is a commitment, and hopefully it's for the benefit of the community. Right now, Marwan, I have to just say there's opportunity, especially for any funding that deals with the BIPOC community. It seems to be flowing, and for the first time in my lifetime, that is happening. And it's an amazing thing that I want to spread the word. It's not our projects. Hopefully, everybody, all the organizations can take advantage of it. And Marwan, what we were talking about is, as when I know about these things, I call the people that I know, that would know, but it's better to do it on this, communication on your podcast, to say, hey, apply for this. Hey, look at this. Go to this website and do this. So if we can figure that out, let's do that. Okay.
Well, and Tony, one of the things that I've done is I'm trying to think of what the grant was. There was a grant through Tony, I believe, and the mayor was talking about it. So I actually went through the website and just read the information, and looked at the application so people can see what it looks like. Because a lot of times people haven't even opened up a grant to look at what it takes, right? You hear grant and it's like, oh my God, I've never done this before. I don't know what to do. What information do they want? So yeah, I took like 40 minutes and went through it. It's like, oh man, that's pretty easy. It's not as scary as you think it is. And I love
Yeah.
the fact that a lot of people will say you teach a person to fish, right? They'll be able to. You call it capacity building, and those are the same things, right? So being able to go through a grant, right? That's learning the process. Now, as these grants come up, folks are empowered to apply for future grants as they go forward. So fantastic and awesome.
I'll tell you a story. This happened the end of August, on my birthday, August 29. And Joe Morrison from Kitsap Economic Development, he calls me and says, hey, there's a grant, but you have to apply for it in like 3 days, right? It's a Department of Commerce grant. Nobody knew about it. The word was getting out. There was $34 million is specifically for, it's called the Small Business Innovation Fund, but targeted at BIPOC communities, right? So
Mhm.
me and a couple of folks on my team, it was 4 days. Okay, we had 4 days. We put it together, but it was the most uncomplicated grant I have ever written. And it was because they needed to spend the money. They were supposed to award that grant by September 30, but it was oversubscribed, as they say on Wall Street, right? It was oversubscribed. So they said, oh, give us to the end of October, but that money has to be spent by June 30. It's Department of Commerce. These things happen.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a little disorganized. All of a sudden there's money and you have to apply and spend it as quickly as you can, which isn't very efficient, but that's okay. I'll take it. We'll do it. We'll put it out there.
Hey, you make it happen, right? Give me the money, I'll spend it. But you said something really important, right? You're saying it's oversubscribed, so they need more time. But even a huge entity like KCR didn't find out about it until 4 days before. And so
Nobody
all of
found out
these,
until like the 1st of August, and we found out
wow.
about it, yeah, the very end of August, and nobody knew about it. It was just an amazing thing. But
And
that's
another reason why it's important to share and talk and have conversations, because you might see something that another agency doesn't see, and you can share that out, and more
and
people can.
that's what I've been trying to do. I picked up the
Wow.
phone. I called Dr. Lillian. I called all these folks. Talked to Daryl. I talked to Drayden. I said, "Did you apply for this?" Yeah, I did. I was like, "Okay, great." But if we can have a central forum where that I can just feed that information to, that'd be great. That would be fantastic, and then everybody can look at it. So let's talk about that, Marwan. Hey,
Absolutely.
I want to mention the Christmas Angels. So this is something
Yes.
we do every year, and we're updating our website right now. This benefits, boy, families in need that KCR supports, and it's a really great program. Last year, the Masonic Temple helped us with the storage, and there's a great storage company in Bremerton that also is a great supporter of KCR. And this year we are doing it internally at 1201. We're starting to generate letters, putting the word out, looking for a couple of volunteers to help with that as well. Arbor, our social media guy, has been pumping that suggestion out there. You can go on the website and donate when the time is right, and the website will be updated continuously as well. There's this, and that's also about to change. So I just wanted to say, KCR is kind of one of the nexus in the community, and anything that you donate goes right to the families in need. Okay.
Absolutely. And again, that scrolling banner is right there for you. And check back often, because the website is changing, and there's so much information, especially as we go into the holidays. And as Matt comes on Wednesdays, we'll continue to inform people of updates and everything that's going on KCR related.
All right. So I know time is short, Marwan.
Yeah, did you
There's
feel like you
something
got through everything?
I didn't know I was going to take an hour.
You
you
always
always
say, I'm not gonna have enough time. I'm not gonna be able to fill the space. I only got like 5 minutes worth of stuff, and then it's like, oh man, an hour went past.
Well, I appreciate you, Marwan. I really do, and I appreciate your time. And between us, we're looking for a sustainable way. This is such a valuable resource for the community, and we're looking for a sustainable way to support this enterprise and things that you do, because communications is important, and knowledge is power. There is one other thing I want to say,
Sure.
and it just seems like that there's just so much going on, and there's just been tragedies in people's lives, and things happen suddenly, even here locally, and people are affected by it. So you know I know this is not quite a holiday message, but tell people you love them. Make sure your friends and family know, and you tell them all the time, because these things are important. So there, for KCR, we're here to serve, and this is what we do.
All right. Thank you for that. And you can catch Tony the next Monday at 10 a.m. And so we're
Oh,
going to
really?
try to. Yeah, that's what we talked about. I'm
It is
all, when
not
did
on
you
my
do it, Tony?
it is not on my calendar, Marwan.
You should put it on your calendar. But we're going to try to have Tony on twice a week or twice a month to have these conversations and update. And sometimes he may not be able to come, as he is super busy. But we're trying to, make those connections.
I'll be here. Okay.
See, he'll be there. I love that commitment. We're trying to make those connections and just build the community that we all want to have. And we're doing it, and you can see it happening. So I want to thank you, Tony, for your leadership here in the community, and all that KCR is doing. And I hope that you have the good rest of your day.
Marwan, like I said, we're here to serve, okay? And we do it with everyone, with everybody, and we appreciate it. We appreciate the team. We appreciate you, Marwan. Okay.
All right. Well, that is it. That is the final word. I am Marwan Cameron for
And
Tony
we
Ives.
appreciate the audience. Thank you, guys.
All
Thanks.
right, let's give it up for the audience there. All right, we will see you guys